guys, this is Mrs. Lyons. As promised, I want to take a couple of minutes and go over our lab solubility of potassium nitrate and how that data should look so that you can create the graph and answer the post-lab questions. All right, so I have just plugged some numbers in to my data table as though these were the values that I recorded. Okay, I want you to use your values. I know some of you did not get values for the first test tube with the smallest amount of solute. So if you did not get values, you can use these. Okay, but you should use a majority of the data should be data that you collected in your personal experiment. Okay. To go to this next table, all we're doing is we're scaling up our numbers, okay? We did this on a relatively small scale, 2 grams in 5 milliliters of water, okay? If you remember, flip over, when we've looked at solubility curves, remember that the value on the y-axis is grams of solute per 100 grams of water, which is equal to 100 milliliters. Okay, so what we want to do once we've got our data plotted is we want to compare it to the solubility graph that we have for potassium nitrate. So we have to have numbers that would go on this graph, meaning in 100 grams. Okay, so all we have to do to scale that is we multiply our numbers by 20. So 2 grams in 5 milliliters of water becomes 40 grams in 100 milliliters of water. And I didn't put units. So everyone's data table should have this number of grams. The difference is going to be the temperatures that you recorded. Okay, so now to set up your graph, a couple of things. All right. Anytime you create a graph, there are some things that should always be present. The graph should have a title. You should label your x and y axis with what we are actually graphing, what the data is. So in this case, we're plotting temperature in degrees Celsius on the x-axis and grams of potassium nitrate dissolved in 100 milliliters of water on the y-axis. And as you can see, I've plotted my points. Okay, so make sure you plot the actual points from your data collection. And then I just want you to draw a line, connect the dots. Okay, so it's not necessarily a line of best fit, but it's just a line that connects the dots. Okay, you are going to use your graph then to answer the post-lab questions. All right, so if we look at the post-lab questions, I'm blurry. Hold on just a minute. There we go. Okay. You're going to use your data to answer the questions. The first one is, according to your graph, how does solubility of potassium nitrate change as the temperature changes, as the temperature rises? So basically, it's asking you on your graph, as you go up in temperature, what happens to the solubility or the amount of KNO3 that's able to be dissolved. Okay. Number 2, you're going to use your graph. Okay. And you're going to look up 50 degrees, 60 degrees, 80 degrees, and tell me how much KNO3 would dissolve. So for me, 50 degrees, I would say that about, 50, 60, 70, 81 or 82 grams dissolved. Okay. Oh, the other thing I did not mention, about your graph. Your graph should fill up the whole graph area that you have. So you got to think about your increments. I used 5 degrees per line and 10 grams of solute per segment in my graph. And that made my graph nicely fill the graph area. Okay, so once you answer questions 1 and 2 using your graph, questions 3 through 6 are just general questions using the solubility graph that's provided. Okay, and then I do want you to do one more thing. So if you're not watching this video, you will not do this and I will know. So do this, listen to the video. I want you to answer one last question, and this relates to your graph. All right. And that question is, how does your graph compare to the graph provided? Okay. So in other words, I want you to look at your graph and I want you to look at this graph of KNO3 on this page and tell me how they compare. Was your graph close? Was your graph off? Were there points on your graph? Like example, I talked to a couple of people who they were like, these numbers look really good, but I've got this one point. Someone showed me their graph and they're like, I've got this one point that's all the way up here and doesn't make sense. If you have that, say that in your explanation here. All right. So you will turn this lab in at the end of class. I hope you had a great weekend and a great Monday, and I will see you soon. Take care.